Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about how you can get started with NVivo. And I will start from the very beginning and show you around in the software and also show you our add-ons. So I will just start with a brief overview of what NVivo is and how you can use it in your qualitative or mixed methods research. And then we will also talk about how you can collaborate with team members. And I will show you another add-on module, which is called NVivo Transcription. And hopefully we will also have time for questions. Please post your questions in the chat or question panel, and hopefully I will be able to answer them in the end. And as Torgrim said, if not, we will get to them after this webinar. Those of you who have signed up for this webinar a while ago will notice that one point that I was supposed to talk about today is missing, which is a preview of NVivo 14. There will be a new version of NVivo coming soon. Unfortunately, I will not be able to show any of this to you today, but please sign up for our newsletters, especially the NVivo newsletter, to stay tuned, and we will inform you as soon as I have more information. And I can promise you that there will be a webinar on NVivo 14 once it's released. So yeah, just sign up for the newsletter and we will inform you about it. Okay. So NVivo is a software for qualitative data analysis. So if you in your research are working with anything like interviews, audio, video files, pictures, if you have a survey with open-ended questions, and your goal is to analyze all of this in a systematic and efficient way, then NVivo can be a really good solution for you. NVivo has not only the desktop version, which is what we will start with today, where you import your files and analyze everything and visualize everything. It also has some add-on modules that can help you throughout the research process. So for instance, if you have collected or if you have conducted interviews, and now you sit in front of your audio and video files that need to be transcribed, there's an add-on module called NVivo Transcription, which you can use to get your transcripts automatically transcribed. It's available in 28 languages, and I will show you how it looks like later today. If you work in a team, there are also different solutions for that, and I will give you an overview of the different strategies and options that you have to work in a team, and I will also show you how one of the solutions, which is another add-on, NVivo Collaboration Cloud, looks like. So we will, look a little bit into everything. What I want to start with is how an NVivo project looks like and what parts of an NVivo project you have. So you have your import section where obviously you import the different files that you want to analyze. As I said, you can import almost anything from, of course, your primary sources like interview material, reports, but you could also import literature from different sources like EndNote or Citavi if you want to do your literature review in NVivo. Then we have a section where we organize things by coding or creating cases, which I will show you. And of course, we want to explore our data. And there are a lot of different ways of how you can explore your data in NVivo using visual tools or queries. And then it could look something like this. As you can see on the screen, there are really a lot of different ways like mapping tools, lexical queries, more complex queries. So I will give you a little overview of what's possible in NVivo today and hope that you can get an idea of what you can do in NVivo. Okay, am I on the right screen? Yes, looks like it. So this is how the NVivo start screen in the latest version of NVivo looks like. Those of you who are on NVivo 12 will notice that it looks a little bit different. One of the things that looks different here is that you have an account where you can log in. Most users will have to log in at least once just to activate their license on their device. Another reason, and this is also why I am logged in here, is if you want to collaborate with team members via the collaboration cloud, which you find here, You will also need to be logged in into the correct account. As you can see here, I have several accounts associated with my email and my name. This is quite normal, and you would have to pick the correct account to be able to access Collaboration Cloud. If you want to start a new project, all you need to do is to click here where it says New Project, give your project a title, choose a folder where you want to store it in, and then you basically can get started. I want to work with a sample project today because we have a lot of data there that I can show you. So this is a sample project that contains a lot of different data types. So I can show you around here. So typically one of the first steps after you have created your project would be to, import your files, which you find at the left side here where it says import and data. As you can see, you can create folders for the different data types that you want to import. A lot of things in NVivo honestly work just with a right click. So if I do a right click here, it gives me the option to create a new folder. If I want to then import things into NVivo, there's an import tab. It's the third tab that you find here. And this is quite interesting because you can already see how many different data types you could import. The first thing that we see here is that you could even import an NVivo project into another NVivo project. This is interesting for all of you who are working in a team and want to, merge and combine the work of different users. This is what you would have to do. You would have to import one project into another. But this is for a later stage, so let's start at the beginning. If you just want to import, I would say, regular files like PDF, audio, and images, you can just click here where it says Files and import any documents that you have. Some of the other options that we find here, like bibliography, are a bit more complex. So here, if you want to import your literature, what you would need to do, let's say you want to import your project from Citavi, what you would have to do is first go to Citavi. Also, Citavi should be installed on the same computer as NVivo. And then you create an export from your references or from your project in a RIS format, and then you can import it into NVivo. So sometimes we need to prepare a little bit. Another thing that I want to show you, and that's interesting for those of you who want to work with data from social media or the internet, is there is an add-on for Chrome, which is called NCapture. So it's an extension that you can install in your Chrome browser, which will help you to capture data from Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and regular web pages. And how this would look like is if you go to your Chrome browser and you capture a web page that you want to use in your project, then you click on and capture within NVivo, you will get a list of all the web pages that you have captured, including the date when they have been captured and the exact link. And from here, you can then import them into your project. This is really useful because we know that data on the internet changes really, really fast. So we always need to know when exactly we captured something and from which URL. And then you will be able to import this regular web page as a PDF file. Other data types like Twitter threads can be imported as data sets even. Okay, so this just as an overview of what you can import. Now let's have a look at what is already imported and how we can work with it. So here we have our interviews. We have interviews with different people, and they also come in different file formats. So on the one hand, we have just regular Word documents. This one here is an interview with several speakers. For instance, we have the interview Elizabeth and the Maria and Daniel. Or you could also have audio and video files here. So I'm taking this one. get a bit more space. This is a video interview, or a video recording of an interview with Betty and Paul. And what's interesting here is that you can really work with your video and your transcript at the same time in the same window, which I think is very convenient. Now, in NVivo, what you can do is, of course, you have a media player. I'm pretty sure that you will not be able to hear what I'm hearing, but maybe you see that these two are moving and maybe looking at each other and just listening to the interviewer. So you can use this as a media player to listen and to watch. And then you can actually start working with this file, because up here, where you find the waveform from the audio, you can actually select parts of the interview and start analyzing. And the analysis can start with different things. Sometimes in the beginning, we want to start with just taking notes, and in NVivo this would be called an annotation. So we can add annotations right on the audio, but obviously also on text. For instance, Paul looks at Betty or something like that. We can create an annotation where we just add a short comment that we think is relevant for our research and that we want to have a reminder of later. So you see, when you add annotations, you get these blue bars. So we see also here's another annotation. Another thing that you can do is to start coding on your audio file, on your audio right away. Coding or codes in NVivo are a very important part of the overall analysis process. So maybe I'll give you a quick introduction to what codes are. We find our codes in the Organise section here, okay? And obviously, since this is a a project that is already conducted, we have a list of codes here that have already been used and coded for in this project. So what codes are, basically, they can be your themes, concepts, topics, anything that is relevant for your particular research project. So usually the way we create our codes or define which codes we need depends a lot on what type of data we have, what our research question is, and how our overall approach and our method looks like. So obviously there are some methods where, like, I don't know, maybe a content analysis where you have some predefined or deductive categories that you would then create codes for in NVivo. Or there might be other approaches where you first really immerse yourself in the material, watch the recordings, read through the interview transcripts, and then you can come up with your codes and a coding structure. But what I will say is basically, no matter what method of analysis you're choosing, you will be, as long as it is category based, you will be able to conduct it in NVivo. And what we see here is a list of codes that has already been created, and we will look at those as well. So for instance, this code here is called balance, and we see that we have 6 files and 16 references coded. So what this means is, let me just open this code so that you can get an idea of how it would look like. So in a code, you will kind of collect every piece of material that is relevant and that falls into this category. So here in the balance code, we have different pieces of material. We have a quote from an interview from a person called Barbara. We have some snippets from Betty's and Paul's interview, which is the video that we just saw, or from some other interviews as well. What's nice here is that you can really code either text, or as you can see here, if we just get some numbers here, this means that there was coding directly on the audio in Betty and Paul's interview. So if I want to see what I've coded, I simply go to the right side here where I get the video tab, and I will be able to play exactly the little snippet that has been coded to the code balance. Okay, so yeah, if you want to work with yeah, you can really work with both text and video and audio. And I will show you a few ways of how you can code as well. As I said, you can code directly on the audio if you want by just selecting something, do a right click and clicking code selection. There's also another way of coding. Of course, if you code text, let me find a good piece of text here. You just select the piece of text that you want to code. And again, you can do a right click, for instance. Or you could also do a drag and drop. Sometimes I'm not really good at drag and dropping, so maybe I will show you in a different example. But when you click code selection, your list of codes will be visible, and you can select either one code or all codes if you hold the control key, which should be used. At any point, you can also create new codes. So if you find a piece of text or a quote where you think, this needs a new code, you can create new codes as you go. Okay, let's explore this. Let's take this video as an example and explore our project a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to show you a few visual tools of how you can explore your data. One thing that you can do is to create an explore diagram. This is something that you can do throughout your analysis. So for Betty and Paul, what I want to do is I just do a right click here on the interview, go to where it says visualize and explore diagram. And this will give me something that looks a little bit like a flower or a star, depending on how you want to see it. So we see their interview file, the video in the middle. And from here, we see everything that is connected to this interview. So these circle icons, those are all the codes that have coding in this interview. We already talked about the balance code. There's also coding to other topics like infrastructure or water quality. And the explore diagram is interactive. So if I were to click or just do a double click on this balance code, it will take me just to the view that we saw a couple of seconds ago. What I want to point you to, though, is these two little suitcases. These suitcase icons, they tell us that this interview belongs to two cases. These suitcases represent our cases. So we have one case called Betty and one case called Paul. What cases are in NVivo? They are, just as their name, they are our cases, our units of analysis that we can create for any unit of analysis that we have in our project. So here, Betty and Paul are obviously people. So here I can show you a little bit how this would look like. So for each case that you have, so let's say for each interview participant, you can create a case and add some demographic information about this person. So let's maybe look for Betty and the case properties that we have here. So Betty obviously is just a pseudonym. You could have different case names in your project, like just a combination of letters and numbers, but I think it's quite nice that they have real names. And here I can see the attribute values of this specific person. I can see the township and community they're from and how many generations they live in the area. I also get some demographic information about her gender. We don't know her age group though. Okay, so this is something that you can do to add another layer of information to your project. And what you can also do is then, of course, explore your coding like we see here, based on these attributes, and maybe compare what, I don't know, men and women had to say, or people who live in the area for longer or shorter have to say. There's also a visual way of how you can compare cases, which is if you go to the Explore tab and Diagrams, you can actually compare two cases with each other. So maybe we want to compare Betty and Paul. So I will just do this. Oh no, this is the wrong one. Betty, and where is Paul? Down here. There we go. And the Explore diagram can be created for either cases, but also codes or files, depending on what it is that you want to compare. And what's interesting here is, and remember, both of them have been part of the same interview, right? So this is what we see in the middle. Betty and Paul, of course, have been part of the same interview file, the Betty and Paul video. And there are a few things that both of them spoke about, and this is what we see in the middle. So these things have been coded in both of their parts of the interview. So both make a comment on jobs and cost of living and also on the economy. But then there are topics that only one of them talks about. For instance, only Paul talks about infrastructure, and Betty talks about a lot of other things like real estate development, water quality, etc. With this case comparison, we could also add another layer by just going to the comparison diagram and adding their attribute values. Don't worry, it might look a little bit busy if I do that, but I would nevertheless want to show you. So I can see, aha, both are classified as person. And now let's also compare their attribute values. Yeah, now it looks a little bit, bit busy. Here we see everything that they have not in common. So Betty is female, Paul is male, but then they have a lot of things in common. For example, both live in the area for 3 or more generations. Okay. So this was just an overview of how you can explore your files and your cases. I want to get back to coding your data because it's such an important part of the analysis. So I want to go and open a different interview, which is Margaret's interview. So as I said, there are different ways of how you can code. What if you work in general Word documents, you even have the option to switch on a code panel. There's this, I don't know, this bar up here where you have some tools that you usually need when working with documents. So you can switch on the code panel, and this will show you the list of codes that you have already created. And from here, you can simply drag and drop into any code that you want to code for, okay? So this is another way to use the drag and drop coding. If you want to see what you have coded in a document, you can switch on the coding stripes, which you find also in this little bar on top. Let me maybe, yeah, you have different options here. You can either go for most coding, least coding, recently coded, which is good if you have just done a round of coding and want to review what you have just coded. Let's maybe go for all coding. Let's see what happens. So you see in Margaret's interview, we have a lot of coding. Let me just go down here. And what you see that some of the coding is also overlapping. So in this part, they're obviously they coded to fishing and aquaculture, but also economy. If you click on the coding stripes, as you will see, they switch colors depending on which coding stripe you click on, right? So that's easy for you to find everything that is coded to the same code in the same document. One thing that I already want to point you to, and I hope I find an example, and I hope it will be visible for you on your screen as well, is if you hover over these coding stripes, you again get the name of the code that has been used, and you see a little, you see some letters in brackets. So, and this indicates who has coded. So we see this WWS. This is the initials for a user named Wanda who was coding in this particular project. Let me just see if I can find an example of someone else who coded in the same interview. Probably not. But what this means is if you are working in a team, what NVivo will do is, as long as you all work in your correct user profiles, it will combine this information. So you will be able to see, okay, this part was coded by Wanda, but maybe this part was coded by Henry, and it will just include this information, which is of course important later if we want to compare coding or if we want to be able to see who did what. So this is why I wanted to point you to that. Let's explore a little bit more, and let's go and run a text search query. So if you work with any form of text-based data, and that could be an interview with a transcript or a survey with open-ended questions, you can run lexical queries like word frequency or text search query. And I want to show you how the text search query would look like. A text search query is really good, especially in the beginning. If you start your coding, and we all know that we will have to read carefully no matter what, but it might be good to just, if you are looking for a particular word and you want to make sure that you're not missing the part of your data that contains this word, just run a text search query. So I want to see if in any of this documents anyone said something about children or about child or children is what I want to search for. So you see, you can look for several words at the same time. So we'll just run this query. Currently, as you see up here, it looks in all files and externals. So it went through all the interviews, any answers from the survey, or any descriptions of any pictures that I have. And here I now get all the documents that where child or children appeared. I can also see how many times. So in Susan and Richard and Patricia's children were mentioned several times. Now I can look at the references to see how the word was used in context. I didn't give you any background about this project, but they are talking a lot about the future of the area, and I thought maybe they will talk about the children. What you can do if you create a if you search for something is that you can also create a word, look at it at the results as a word tree. So here we have the word children in the middle, and we see the branches. So for instance, my children, our children, their children. So from here, we could also just do a double click on one of the branches, and then it would look for the phrase, our children, and I can look a little bit closer at who said something and in which documents I find something about our children and who said something about that. But I want to go back to the original search. Another thing that is interesting, and we see this already here, in the summary, is that we have, the word children was featured in different data types, also in the survey responses. So somehow in one of the survey responses, someone said something about children. So let's maybe go there and see what they said. So in the survey, so there's a data set in this project that contains 5 open-ended questions, and it takes me now right to the part here, it's highlighted, where someone said something about children. So here the question was the types of development I would not like to see, and this person's answers is here. Okay, speaking of data sets, this is how data sets look like in NVivo. If you have closed-ended questions, Those will be created as attributes. So any demographic data, for instance, that you have collected will be kept for each of your respondents. And then the open-ended questions, as we just saw, are searchable and also codable. So if I want to code something to a specific topic, I can do that here. I can also create annotations. I think in the example before, there was actually also an annotation. Since data sets or surveys tend to be really large, it might not be the best idea just to go through all of this in this list, but maybe what you can also do is a different approach, because if you import your data set and if everything worked correctly and if the data set was set up correctly, what you will find is that you get a folder that contains the open-ended questions as codes. So here, what I have is a folder that contains all the open-ended questions from the survey, and they are already coded. So from here, I could, instead of reading and coding in the data set itself, I can also go from one code to the next and just open it and read through it and code on. This is how we call it. Another thing that you can do just to explore your answers would be maybe to run a word frequency query. So here, the question was the types of developments I would like to see. So if I do a right click and visualize and word cloud, this might take a few seconds, but it will essentially it now scan all the text that is coded under this code, and then come up with a list of words that have been frequently used, and it will also create a word cloud for me. And it should be there in a second. There we go. So types of developments that they would like to see, and these are the words that came up: housing, restaurants, that's always good, businesses, etc. And also from here, of course, I could, go on and investigate a little bit further. Okay, but I'm looking at the time, and I think I have to switch to the add-ons that I want to talk about. And one of them is the options for teamwork that you have in NVivo. So let me just pull up the slide here. So there are different ways of how you can work in a team in NVivo. And I specifically want to talk about the collaboration cloud option. But let's just start with an overview. So it's always possible to work in a team and just create a project file, distribute it with all the team members, and then organize it in a way that you can collect the copies of your team members that have been working with this file, and then merge them to, again, to just combine all the work that everyone has done. In the past, this was a process that was just organized by every user group themselves. We would call it the standalone version of doing the collaboration. Now, since a couple of years, we have the collaboration cloud, which is a cloud-based add-on module that helps you to upload and organize and download your project files. So the idea here is that one of you is the project leader, the project manager. They upload the master file to the collaboration cloud. Then you can add users and give them certain roles, and they can download the file from there. So I will show you how it looks like, but basically it's a safer way to exchange your project file and make sure that everyone has access to the correct version of the file and is not working with an older version and so on and so forth. And in the end, so everyone is just downloading the file, working offline, uploading it again, and then the project files will be merged by the project leader or project manager offline. So it's just a cloud service that is a bit more secure than, I don't know, in the standalone version where you have to use USB sticks or however to share your file. There's also something called the collaboration server. This is an option for bigger teams, and this allows you to work in real time, but you have to have the correct IT environment on your in your organization to be able to set up the server. But if you are interested in the collaboration server solution or also the collaboration cloud solution, please contact us, and our sales team will be able to help you find the correct license. But as I said, what I want to talk about or show you is how the collaboration cloud works, because I get quite a few questions about this. So as I said, the collaboration cloud is an add-on module. You find all the modules in a tab called modules. And in order to access Collaboration Cloud, obviously, first of all, you need a license to it. One license contains 5 seats. So the admin buys one license, assigns the seat, and then the project leader uploads the file and invites people. So I have to make sure here that I'm logged in the correct account that also is connected to the collaboration cloud. Sometimes it takes, a few logins and logging out to, enter the correct account. But I should be in the correct account. So let's just click on where it says collaboration cloud. Of course, NVivo is not responding. Okay, here we go. This is what happens when you do live webinars. Okay, so this is how the Collaboration Cloud looks for me. I have different workspaces here because I have already uploaded different projects. So each project is also called a workspace. And I can also see who are members in this workspace, and I can also see what my role is. So I'm a workspace manager for all of them. So I'm the one who would be responsible to upload the file, invite members, etc. So let's maybe click on this one here. So for you as a collaborator, it might look different. Okay, just keep this in mind. What I can see are the different users that I have added to this project. This is an old colleague of ours, and this is a current colleague of ours. But these are the users that the project file has been shared with. And for some, it says in progress. So Peter, if you're listening, please download the file and work on it. No, I'm just kidding. It's just an example. So here I can see that the master project was downloaded or shared with this this person, but Peter has not yet uploaded his version. Whereas here for Gustav, we see that yes, he also received version 1 of the project, and he even uploaded his version where he did his changes and marked as ready to merge. So this would allow me from here to download. What I can see also is I can get a version history of everyone that has been contributing to this project. The cloud seems to be a bit slow right now, but what you see here is this is the master project file that I have uploaded. I can also see, for instance, what Gustav did, and there I would see that he received the project and he uploaded his version and also added a little comment, added some changes. And I could do this for all the collaborators that I have in this project. For each of my project and workspaces, I can also add new users. So if I want to invite someone else to work on the same project, I would just click here where it says add, and I can select users. Now, please be aware you can only select users that have a seat assigned in the same collaboration cloud license that you have. You cannot just randomly select users from everywhere. So the first step is always to get the collaboration cloud license, and in the My NVivo portal, whoever owns the license or the admin has to assign the seats to everyone, and then you can select the users and also select their role, which is always either collaborator, so that they can just work on their own project and download and upload, or you can also make them workspace manager if you want them to be able to also manage users and and also add something, upload master projects. Okay, that was a brief overview of Collaboration Cloud and how it looks like. Another add-on that we have is NVivo transcription. So let me also pull up this slide here. NVivo transcription is an automated transcription service that is available in 28 languages, which you see on the screen right now. And the way it works is, again, you have to log in into the My NVivo transcription into My NVivo, or into, you can also add access transcription from within NVivo via the modules tab. Again, make sure that you are logged into the correct account so that you can actually launch transcription and don't end up at the trial page. So I will show you. So I have already logged into my NVivo transcription. Let's make this maybe a little bit bigger. So I've logged in via the My NVivo portal, and here is how NVivo transcription looks like. So first of all, you find the area where you can upload your media files. It might be a bit small for you, but I will read it out for you. So there are some limitations of what you can upload here. So if you want to upload an audio or video file, first of all, here are the supported formats. A lot of regular audio and video formats are supported, but just to make sure, you know, here you find an overview, or if your file happens to be in a different format, you might have to convert it into the correct format first. Another thing, your files shouldn't be longer than 4 hours or 4 gigabytes, otherwise you will not be able to upload them. But other than that, you can upload them here. There are some tips. Of course, the better the quality of the audio, the better the results of the transcription will be. But yeah, basically you upload it, and then you can down here choose to transcribe your file in the language that it is in, right? So if your file is in English, you would choose English. If you have a file in German, you would choose German, or and so on. I have a transcript already created here, just also to save time. And once you have received your transcript, you can start editing. So this is how the raw transcript would look like, right? The software identifies speaker breaks. Sometimes they are accurate, sometimes they are not, in the sense that, oh, this is actually still the same speaker, but you know, he or she just, you know, took a break or took a breath. So of course we can adjust this by just moving it back together or something like this. So depending on what we want to do. Down here we also have a play button. Maybe I will play from the start, where we can play the audio and we see exactly where we are in the transcript, and we can see if anything it needs to be corrected. So I'm pretty sure that Burmese is not what he said here. I can adjust the play speed down here. So if I don't want to play it very fast, I can make it slower so that I can really take my time and listen to what they are saying. Or maybe if it's the second round of going through to the transcript, I just make it very fast. I can also add speaker names, so we don't have to call them speaker 1 or speaker 2. This person here is called Henry, who's the interviewer. And I can either just, you know, change this instance, or I can also change all. Of course, we would have to make sure that the speaker breaks are really correct before we do that, but I will just click on all, and now all. Did I make this correctly? I'm not sure. Replace speaker 2 with Helen. I'm not sure if this even worked. Okay, yeah, maybe this one didn't work. Okay, so this is what we can do. Another thing that we can also do, of course, is we have some undo, redo, save buttons. Also, the export button is really important. If you are done with editing your transcript, make sure you export it and save it in a secure place, because NVivo transcription is not the place where you actually save your transcript or your media files. Your media files will even be deleted after 90 days. Okay, your transcript will stay there a little bit longer, but please make sure to export your transcripts once you're ready, and then you are able to work with them either by importing them into NVivo, or also by, to use them outside of NVivo if you need them for your reports or whatnot. A few things here. You have a find and replace. So if you have very specific words that NVivo transcription just doesn't detect correctly, you can choose the find and replace with to just, edit your transcript a little bit faster. And there's also a button that says add to dictionary. And the dictionary is something that you should starting to create after you've done your first round of transcription. So my suggestion would always be transcribe one of your interviews, go through it, and then publicate your that's not the wrong word, but work on your dictionary. So the dictionary is a tool that you can use to add all the words that NVivo misspelled, or NVivo transcription misspelled. What you see here is actually a little bit funny. I did a test once and put one of my own webinars and let it transcribe by the software, and NVivo transcription was not able to detect whenever I said NVivo. It made all funny things out of it: Nivo, Indigo, NVivo, I don't even know. So I added all of these like sounds like or optional here, and the desired transcription is of course NVivo. And when you have created a dictionary and then go to transcribe your files, you can actually choose to use the dictionary here in the transcription, so that the transcript results should already be better than in the first round. Okay, so much about NVivo transcription. I'm looking at the time. Don't worry, Torgrim. And I think I will have some time left for some questions if there are any, but I want to point you to our events page. There are some NVivo trainings coming up. So if you want to, some of you or almost half of you are new to NVivo, as we've seen in the survey or in the poll. So if you want, please join one of our online trainings. We have 2 online trainings coming up this year in November and December, where I really go over everything that you need to know in NVivo. These online trainings are over 2 days. So we have 2 days or 7 hours of training, and then I meet everyone individually for half an hour in the week after to really, have the full learning experience. First learning in a small group, up to 10 people, and then also meeting individually and maybe being able to ask specific questions about your project setup and what you might want to do there. So yeah, check out our event page. As I said in the beginning, there will also be other webinars available. Obviously, as soon as NVivo 14 is available, there will be a webinar where we will talk about it. So keep an eye how do you say this? Keep an eye out for that. And yeah, that was it from me. I'm happy to receive questions if there are any.
Yeah, hi, Marit, and thank you for the great demonstration of NVivo. I see that the clock is ticking, but maybe you can take one question. Is
Sure.
it possible to import photos or pictures to NVivo, and how do you code them?
Yeah, let's look at that. So let's switch back to NVivo. Yes, you can absolutely also work with pictures in NVivo. So let me find an example here. Yeah, maybe this one. So if you, there are of course different file formats that are supported, but when you want to work with pictures in NVivo, what you can do, and this is what you see here, is you can code a picture. You can either code the whole picture. The easiest way would be to just go from the list view and just choose code whole picture, that you can make sure that the whole picture is coded. But you can also just code parts of a picture by using a cursor, where you can just code a selection of a picture. You can also add annotations, just like we've seen with texts as well. Another thing that is interesting for pictures is that you can also, if you are in edit mode here, you can also add a description to your picture, and you can add the description either to the whole picture, or like we see here, you can also add the description just to a particular region of the picture. This is really helpful because as soon as you add a text or a description to your picture, this description will again then be searchable. So remember earlier I did this text search where I looked for the word children. If the word children would have happened to be in one of the descriptions of the picture, it would have popped up as well. So this is really, really useful. And if you have larger pictures, or I've also seen people working maybe with maps or something like this, or let's say you have a picture of a group of people like politicians at a summit, it might make sense to, add a description of each phase or each part of the picture. Yeah. Any other questions, or are we running out of time? I guess we are running out of time.
Yeah, Marit, sorry, I think we will have to end your presentation there. I see the clock is ticking. Thank you again for the great demonstration.